All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here today with Tanner Manson from the Future Investing channel. We'll leave it in the description. Big guy on Sofi. Sofi is one of those interesting stocks in the community. It's one of those stocks that I think it's talked about a lot, just like Open Door, just like Palantir. I am getting ready to hopefully initiate a position in Sofi. I'm very interested in Sofi. I've heard them be referred to as the AWS of Fintech. But I would like to know at a high level what Sofi is and ask some basic sort of noob questions to someone who understands it more deeply to give us a better understanding. So first question for you, Tanner, thank you for coming on, is why do you think there's a cult around Sofi? Because there absolutely is a cult, and I think that's a great thing for a stock. Why is a fintech banking stock so exciting to people?
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that question is that I think that the way that Palantir might be really exciting for people is the same way that I find that Sofi is really exciting for people, is that the growth rates are really high. And people can focus on the revenues and these sorts of things without actually diving deep. Like I think, you know what, and maybe this is controversial, I think there are problems to Sofi. That's obvious. Stock prices don't drop the way they do in Sofi's case without there being problems that I think some retail investors don't fully understand. So I think there's this cult basis around it because, you know what, it's got a huge technology side that people might not fully understand that has a lot of promise, like you said, with the AWS of Fintech. And we can dive into that and why that's super important. But I mean, for the most part, I just think it's the growth rates. People see how fast these members are pouring in.
But is that enough to create a cult? Like for Palantir, growth is, I don't know, 20 to 30%, but it's more so like their mission of like being in every single vertical across like the globe and using their data analytics software. Like that's, I think, what gets people. And then you put in the Western freedoms, there's all this government stuff. Like, do you think the growth rate's there, or do you think there's like a revolution in the banking infrastructure space that gets people excited about it?
Honestly, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I love, so the way Sofi is sort of broken down is that they have three main segments. They have their lending side of things where they do their personal loans, student loans, home loans, these sorts of things. They got their financial services, which is their checking and savings accounts, and then their credit cards and their investment brokerage. So those you can really find anywhere else. Robinhood does everything there. Most fintechs will do all of those services. But where Sofi sort of differentiates is their technology platform side of things. They have two companies that they've acquired since 2020. That's Galileo and Technisys. Galileo is a payment processing software. They deal with some of the biggest, fintechs in this space. So, for example, Chime. Every time that you get a debit card or credit card with them, that's all through Galileo. So we get a portion of that revenue. Robinhood's a part of that. A lot of big players. So we have about, I think it's around 50 different fintechs and banks that are signed up with Sofi that accounts for 117 million different accounts. 48 different clients that account for 117 million different accounts. So we get all the processing or payment processing through that every time people tap their card.
So is Galileo a payment processor, or are you talking about the other thing they acquired?
Yeah, Galileo is a payment processing company.
And why is it so AWS of Fintech-y?
Well, because the Technisys is where we've sort of added that, and this is where the AWS comes from. So Technisys is our newest acquisition. I say I'm not a part of Sofi, but
you're a part of it. You're definitely you're a shareholder. You're a shareholder.
Yeah, so with Technisys, obviously what they do is more banking infrastructure. So they help a lot of, let's say, community banks actually set up a digital version, so then their clients can have mobile banking services. And also what they also do is help with the core banking and ledger processes. And what they really changed about that, what most older banks do, is that they need a different core bank software and ledger for every single one of their products. Okay. This is all very old school technology. Technisys came in and put it on the cloud, right? They work with Azure, Microsoft, and actually, have this stuff all in one core and banking, process on the web. And then this allows them to actually, bring the cost down a ton. What the AWS of Fintech comes from is taking the payment processing and adding it to the, cloud-based services that we can offer. And according to Anthony Noto, the CEO of Sofi, there's no other player in the world that does that. So we have something that is, could be considered a real moat because we have a product that just isn't offered anywhere else. And then to add on to that, SoFi before was just this financial technology software, is now an actual, nationally chartered bank. So not only can we offer them the banking and ledger software, we can also offer them the payment processing software, but then we can also be the sponsoring bank, which, that's the actual way that we can actually host that money onto our platform. Any other bank will do this for you, but they charge a fee. If we can offer it all in one, quick bundle to some community bank or something like this, say, hey, we can set up your bank for you. We can offer your clients all the accounts, everything's set up in this Lego-like system, so you can put it all together the way you want in one quick setting. And then also offer the credit cards, debit cards and everything like that all in one quick button. So that's sort of the AWS of fintech sort of, spiel.
So when I think of AWS, I think of like a cloud computing virtual server that said every company in the world can run their backend data compute storage through AWS. Is your argument many companies in the world are going to run their payment processes through Galileo because it is this consolidated ecosystem of payments?
Yeah, so not only that, but with Technesis, because they're a cloud-based software for their banking infrastructure, whenever you're going to create new products like buy now, pay later, or like joint lending accounts, for example, these are some of the newer products in banking.
Yeah.
Technesis supports those without needing new products. So you can develop new products directly onto Technesis's platform, live on their platform, and send it out to your clients day of. So it's more of a technology service in that way, where you can develop your own products on the software and then launch them out to your clients same day.
So SoFi owns Technesis and Galileo, and together it's almost like they're giving a platform to other fintech companies or financial institutions to be able to build on top of their stuff.
Yeah.
And they get licensing fees and royalties.
In fact, we're also working with extremely large banks, some of the really big names. They haven't actually come out and said which names yet. However, they've leaked that, we are talking with some of the larger institutions just because we offer such a great service. So whether that's a, Bank of America or whatever it is, we haven't actually figured out the names, but our service is supposedly so good that, why, for example, in JP Morgan's, in their business, they have 50,000 technicians working on creating their software.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you can work with SoFi, get a fully branched out service that can deal with as many clients as they like, because you have the cloud-based services of Microsoft Azure, so they can take the numbers and, get it all under one fee, one payment, without having to deal with all the stress of adding to your employment, so.
Okay. So how, like, from a, I don't want you to make specific predictions or anything, but that tech, when it scales, do you think like revenue wise, that's billions and billions of dollars? Like AWS is 62 billion a year, right? Like, do you think that's has potential?
Right. I have no clue. I have got no clue. What I think it's really useful for, and whether we can get into big banking or not, I think the really amazing software, and the great thing about SoFi, and maybe Palantir is the same way, if you talk to one shareholder or another, people will give you their predictions completely different about what they are excited about the company for, right? If you talk about Palantir, some people are really excited about the government, or maybe the for builders, I forget what it's called.
Foundry for builders. Yeah.
Right. So SoFi is a very similar way. A lot of people think that, Technesis is going to be this revolutionary one-stop product. We are going to literally be the AWS of fintech. Whether or not it actually gets to that size, I don't care about. I think more what's really, really exciting is there's a ton of community banks, union banks, everything like this all around the country that have no mobile setups at all. And that, maybe they have 300 customers or 1,000 customers, but, none of that technology. If we can offer them a solution that is a literal, less than a couple days worth of setup, slap together, this thing the way you would like it, that's what I really think is the revolution here, is that we're going to get every small bank up to normal fintech standards.
Okay. That sounds good. Sounds interesting. I'm sold on that bull case, even though obviously I got to understand more about the tech, but high level, that makes sense.
Right.
Student loans. What is going on with that? Why does SoFi care so much about that?
Yeah. So, you know what, I differ on this conversation a lot more than other investors, but I'll tell you the main spiel. So, really, back before 2019, student loans were the largest product for SoFi. Now, it wasn't our only product like some people would like to think. We also did personal loans and home loans before, but student loans were a really big product for us. And then obviously with the pandemic
What do you mean
came,
by
and
big
then
product? Like they
it
gave
was
out
our most
loans?
profitable, it was our most common product. That was our biggest upsell.
So they
So,
gave a loan, a private loan to kids for college.
oh yeah, so exactly. So the federal student loans would give a certain interest rate. We thought that was a little too high, so we could offer it at a better rate. And
Okay.
so people would refinance with us at a cheaper interest rate, and then obviously we could securitize those loans and make profit. Pretty much then, the president at the time, Donald Trump, during the pandemic, he put a moratorium on the student loans, right? So he paused all the student loans, and that absolutely killed our business at the time, because that was our main source of revenue. Since then, we've diversified so much, yet people still think that we're a student refinancing company. We're not. I mean, it makes up less than 20% of our loan business, let alone our entire business that includes checking accounts, the investment brokerage, Galileo, Technesis, everything. That's all included now. So, but what will be exciting is getting back into our old style of what people used to think that we were. So we haven't really closed out on any new student loans since 2 years ago. And so now by 2023, January 2023, that pause is ending. Federal student loans will be, payments will need to start back up, and the interest rates are going to be high, and SoFi is going to be there to offer a cheaper rate. So that's really going to start up the business again in terms of our lending. But there's a little bit of a caveat to that too. SoFi will not take on anyone that wants a student refinancing. In fact, we only take on the best of the best. Like, the average credit score of our lenders is 760 points or something like this, with an average income of 170,000 average. So even though there was student loan forgiveness of $10,000, and that's how much it was, there wasn't any forgiveness for people that made over 125,000. So the average person that we actually lend to are not getting any forgiveness. So that was a big worry for SoFi investors, is that Biden would come out and give too much forgiveness, and then that would sort of take away how much loans that we could actually refinance.
Right. You guys are giving loans to rich people, basically.
We give loans to rich people, and before, even a year ago, we would only accept around 30% of the applicants that even signed up for one of our loans, and then the other 70% we would just fluff off. Now we take those other 70%. We work with a company called Pagaya, and they actually take those loans and send them to B-list refinancing companies that will actually take those companies. So we take lead generation revenue from that, and so we're actually capitalizing on everyone that actually wants a loan from us.
Okay, so now SoFi recently became a bank. They got a banking charter.
Yeah.
And the way I understand how Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they make money is you have wealth management, asset management, all that stuff. But like the core way is they get money from people, and then they lend it out, and then they make some interest on that, or they invest that money because they have so much money because they get it from all these different people. So student loans is, you said 20% of the lending business. Is the overall revenue of SoFi lending because they are a bank at the end of the day?
Yeah, about 70% of our revenue is lending. And then, the other 20% is technology platform, about 10% is financial services, which is the, checking, savings, brokerage. So
do people get
even though that
excited
makes
for
up,
the lending part, or like, is there anything unique there, or is it just cookie cutter dry lending?
if you want to talk about a little bit interesting, is that we have our own, credit checks in history sort of platform. So pretty much we don't go off of credit scores all the time. We make our own checks the way that sort of Upstart does. If you've ever done, so the way that Upstart sort of does it, we have our own algorithms that determine whether people are actually good for our loans. So potentially that we have our own algorithm for that. But I mean, there's nothing too serious about it. We have a pretty cookie cutter lending service, right? We take on the interest rates, and we don't wait just the whole time. We like any other bank, we sell off those loans to people who are wanting fixed income. So the great thing about, and that's, I don't know who's watching or whatever, but that's called securitization. So whenever a loan, we want to sell it off to maybe someone who wants a little bit of a, fixed income product, we can sell them those loans. But the riskier that the loan is, the cheaper they are, because they could default on those buyers.
Right.
So what's really great is our securitization is so incredibly high because we have very good paying customers. So it's another benefit for SoFi.
Interesting. So the bull case outside of lending, which is okay. So here's another question. You guys keep saying you have growth in members. What do you mean by members?
Yeah. So people that sign up for any product with SoFi, right? If you sign up, you put your name in our database and actually sign up for one of our products, that's a member. Now,
and what is the growth rate on that? That's like really exciting.
Yeah, so I could bring up the exact number for the last quarter, but the numbers that I actually just on my last video that I made was I did a year over 2 year sort of chart. So just seeing what it was from Q2 of 2020 to Q2 of 2022. Members grew by 259%. So we went from 1.2 million members to 4.3 million members in a matter of 2 years. And then the amount of products that we have, so that could be anything. That could be a checking account, that could be a personal loan, right? Any product that we have went up 300% year over 2 years. So not only,
what was the reason for that? Why do you think they grew so much? Was it really good marketing or?
Yeah, I mean, so there was a couple things. One, we offer the highest interest rate in our checking account across the board.
Which is what?
About 2% on all the money that stands in your checking account at all times.
Wow.
So, people like to go over, put their money in their accounts, and then, we can cross-sell them into other things. Hey, while you're here, maybe you're interested in buying some stock, get over to our brokerage side. Oh, you might be in the age range to maybe need a mortgage. How about you try out our home loans?
Right.
And so our products are actually growing even faster than our members because we have more members with multiple products, which is just ramping up that average revenue per user.
One thing I've been seeing is that people want to use SoFi more than the traditional Bank of America's Wells Fargo's. Are you seeing that in the demographics of members that are joining, that they kind of don't trust the traditional banks and they like SoFi more?
I don't know if it's necessarily a trust factor. I think it's I think another part, and this is what Anthony Noto said, is that the funny thing about the people that we're actually bringing on or we're acquiring are the people who are very, they're money smart, right? They look at it and say, the Bank of America's, the Wells Fargo's, they won't offer me that 2%. They won't offer me 0.05% in a checking account, right? They offer nothing. And so offering 2% are the people that necessarily might want a little more bang for their buck, right? And while you're there, because we're just a nationally chartered bank and we can actually, use those deposits for our loans, we can offer the same rates as the banks can.
Right.
That's the great thing about scale in the banking sector, is that whether you have a couple $1 trillion or you have a couple $100 million, we can still offer the same rates because it's a percentage basis business.
Right.
They can't bully us out because every dollar that they would spend at a higher rate would just end up losing them. So it's different than the idea of a Google or Meta or something like this bullying out some of the other smaller tech companies. That really doesn't work in this business.
So why isn't Bank of America doing 2%?
Well, because they don't need to. That's the truth.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Gotcha.
Most clients that are direct deposit clients don't look for other opportunities. They don't switch banking.
Yeah.
They don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
And so we are growing and we're growing really fast, but 4 million members in the grand scheme of things is nothing. Yeah. Right. Versus the Bank of America's or these sorts of things. They're just too large, and they are trying to switch over. They have new mobile banking, apps and these sorts of things. They are trying to do what we're doing, but they're not offering us the rates that they can't, or sorry, they could offer the rates as well. They just don't need to. They prefer to be much more profitable. And you know what? They have obligations. they have dividends that they're trying to increase. They have, pension plans that they're trying to pay out, and all these things from a long list of many employees, or even the branches. These old banks have these cumbersome branches that they have to keep up with that, cost a lot of money for rent and employees and everything. And the customers that are walking through them are very old and don't actually bring new income into the banks. So most people that are walking into a branch are, depositing money. Withdrawing money. They're taking money out because they're in the retirement stage of their life. The average client that SoFi is getting is much younger, very much into their, income earning years.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously that's not every client that Bank of America has, but that is the problem with branches, and they're closing down like crazy. All if you look through JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they're closing branches. They're trying to switch over to digital only. It's just a slow process, very, very slow. So, even whenever you look at Tesla or these sorts of things, like, yes, the other automotives had a chance to switch over to electric, but starting fresh sometimes is actually more beneficial because you don't have all the cumbersome costs of making the switches. Digital only banking is the future, and SoFi is there to take over, and they don't have any of the worries of trying to switch out their old clients for new ones.
This is exciting. This is very exciting. Thank you for taking the time today. I'm pretty much sold on initiating a position. There's some people that I really talk to that have large positions in SoFi as well that I respect.
Yeah.
I just have to go through and understand. I know the numbers about Palantir on the back of my head, just like you do for SoFi. I want to be able to say that for SoFi if I'm going to really make the investment.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a strong bull case here. Last, I got to ask you this question before you go.
Sure.
Okay, Chamath. What is the narrative behind it's a SPAC that he left for a pump and dump? Like, how do you guys deal with that argument?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't fully left, but he definitely sized down his position. And SoFi's hit with the SPAC curse, right? They SPAC'd onto the market, and some of our larger institutions like SoftBank and Chamath have decreased their positions. But then again, other institutions, Vanguard, BlackRock, Cotier, like all these other larger institutions are actually placing massive bets onto SoFi. So, do I care about what one single individual investor is doing? Not necessarily. I think, we're actually growing whenever it comes to institutional holdings. It's just, in a couple of different hands that it wasn't necessarily a part of before. So, and we're going into struggling times. We're in a short-term basis, like higher interest rates is not necessarily what you want to see whenever you're a financial service company, right? 100%. So, yeah, we've been able to lower it because we are a national bank and we have those deposits now. See, that's a great thing. I don't know if you know this, but whenever you are a national bank, you can actually take the deposits that your clients are putting in the bank and then, lend it out, right? We weren't able to do that before. So we couldn't offer the 2% interest rates. And even then, we're still saving about 1% or 100 basis points on all of our loans, even though we're giving out 2%, rather than going through warehouse facilities and other credit lines like that. So it's right now, what I think is happening on SoFi's side is that we're trying to acquire as many clients as we can and lower our customer acquisition costs through bringing them on to products like SoFi Money, right? Or checking and savings account. So maybe it costs us $10 to $15 per acquisition, right? And, through referral fees. But then by that point, we can actually take select clients and actually bring them over to our student loans, personal loans, these sorts of things that bring much higher interest rates. So I think it's a thing very much like Palantir, where this is a long-term position, and it needs, SoFi needs to build into the position that it's creating.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Tanner, so much. I'll leave all
Thanks,
your
Amit. I
links
appreciate it
in the description. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.